Nobody has to break in to know you are away, they only have to walk past. A house tells the street what it is doing, every single day. Number 6 is readable from a moving car. None of these cost anything to fix. Most people are sending 4 of them right now, 20 signals, and how to stop each one. Start with the arithmetic because it explains everything that follows. A person deciding which house to try is not looking for valuables. They cannot see valuables. What they are looking for is certainty about one question. Is anybody in there? And how long will that stay true? Everything on this list is an answer to that question that your house gives away for free. Not because you are careless, because houses are lived in and living in one leaves marks. Stop living in it for 4 days and the marks stop with you. The fix is almost never a purchase. It is a small piece of maintenance or one arrangement with one person, and that is what the last item turns out to be. Number 1. The post. The oldest and clearest signal there is. Letters visible through a glazed door, a wedge of takeaway menus jammed in the flap, a letterbox that will not close. Each of those has a date on it, and anybody can read it in the 2 seconds it takes to pass your gate. The fix is a neighbor with a key, or a mail hold with your postal service. Most will suspend delivery for a stated period, free, and hold it for collection. Booking, that is a 5-minute job that removes the single most reliable telehouse has. Worth knowing, a hold has a maximum length, usually around 30 days, and it has to be booked a few days ahead. People book it the night before they fly and find it does not start until after they have gone, which is the one window that matters. Number 2. A wheelie bin standing at the curb 3 days after collection says, "Nobody has been home since collection day." Worse, an empty bin on the right day says the same thing more quietly. Everybody else's is full, yours went out with nothing in it or did not go out at all. On a street with a fixed collection day, that is a calendar anybody can read. Ask a neighbor to put yours out and bring it back in. If nobody can, leave it in. A bin that never appears is less informative than one that appears and then stands there. The same goes for a recycling box left at the curb with nothing added to it for a fortnight. On streets where collections alternate, the pattern of which boxes go out and when is one of the few genuinely weekly signals a house produces. Number 3. Curtains that do not move. Curtains closed during the day are a stronger signal than curtains left open. Nobody sits in a dark room at 2 in the afternoon. Drawn curtains in daylight say the house was shut up deliberately by somebody who is leaving, and they also do you the favor of hiding whoever is at your window. Leave them as you normally have them. If you want the inside hidden, use nets or a blind at the usual height rather than a full close, and change nothing else. The honest version of this is that curtains are a compromise either way. Open, the street sees your room. Closed in daylight, the street sees your absence. Nets solved both and are why they were universal for a century before anybody thought them old-fashioned. Number 4. The single lamp. A lamp on a mechanical timer switching at 7 o'clock exactly every evening tells a watching person more than no lamp at all. Real houses are irregular. Lights come on in different rooms at times that are not on the hour and go off in an order that changes. One lamp doing the same thing at the same minute for a week is a machine, and it reads as one. Use 2 or 3 timers at different hours in different rooms and set them to odd minutes. It costs about $20, and it is the difference between a signal and a disguise. Mechanical timers drift by a few minutes a week, which is accidentally useful. A pattern that shifts slightly reads more like a person than one that never varies. Smart plugs with a randomized setting do the same deliberately. Number 5. Sound. Every timer sells the same lie visually. Almost nobody sells it audibly, which is why sound is the strongest thing on this list. A radio on a timer in a back room is worth more than any lamp because a light can be checked from the street and a voice cannot. It is the one occupancy signal that cannot be verified from outside the property. A cheap plug-in timer and any radio does it. Talk stations beat music. Put it in a back room rather than the front. Sound arriving from deep inside a house reads as somebody in the kitchen. Sound at the front window reads as a device on a sill because that is where devices get put. The car. The one that reads from a moving car, which is how most streets get looked at. A car that has not moved leaves evidence, leaves settled against the tires, a dry patch under it after rain, pollen on the glass, frost on it when the neighbors are clear. In winter it is unmistakable, an untouched frost line on one windscreen at 9 in the morning on a street where everybody else has left. If you are away for a while, the answer is somebody moving it occasionally or parking it at theirs and leaving your space empty. An empty space says nothing. A settled car says a fortnight. If it has to stay, at least clear it when the weather turns. One wipe of a windscreen after the first frost resets the clock on the most visible timestamp you own, and it takes 20 seconds. Number 7. Snow, frost, and leaves. The same evidence on the ground. And it is the one people forget entirely because it only exists for part of the year. An unbroken drive after snowfall, leaves piled against a door that has not opened, frost across a path with no footprints at midday. These are timestamps accurate to the hour, and a passing stranger reads them without thinking about it. Somebody clearing a path is the fix, and it is a small favor to ask. If nobody can, at least break the line yourself before you go. A drive with tire tracks and footprints in it from the morning you left is ambiguous for days afterwards. A drive with a perfect unbroken surface is not ambiguous for an hour. Number 8. The lawn. The slowest signal and the most conclusive because grass keeps time. A lawn 3 inches longer than every other lawn on the street is a 3-week absence stated publicly. It is also, on its own, the thing most likely to attract attention from somebody who is not otherwise looking. Cut it before you go and arrange for one cut if you will be gone more than a fortnight in a growing season. This is the item most likely to bring a stranger onto the property with a legitimate reason to knock, offering to cut it. That is usually exactly what it appears to be, and it is also how a house gets looked at closely by somebody with a reason to be standing at the door. Number 9. Junk mail on the mat. Different from number 1 and worth its own place, the free sheets, the leaflets, the cards pushed through by people who are checking. That last part is not paranoia. Distributing leaflets is a legitimate job and also a legitimate way to see which doors do not clear. A leaflet left in a door frame that stays there for a week has answered the question for whoever put it in. Anyone collecting your post should clear the frame and the step, not just the mat. Number 10. Blinds at odd angles. Slat blinds tilted fully shut in the middle of the day are the same statement as closed curtains. With a bonus, they usually mean the room behind them is unused. A house being lived in has blinds at inconsistent angles that change through the day. A house that was locked up has every blind matching because somebody went round and did them all in one pass. If you close them the way you normally would. Uniformity is the tell. The same applies to upstairs. A house where every upstairs blind is shut at 3 in the afternoon is not a house where somebody is having a lie-in. It is a house where somebody went round before locking up, and the pattern reads as one pass. Number 11. A porch light burning at noon. The classic mistake, and it is the exact inverse of what it is meant to do. A light left on permanently says nobody is there to turn it off. It costs almost nothing to run, and it advertises continuously. A dusk to dawn sensor solves it for about 15. The light behaves the way a person would on at dark, off at daylight, without anybody home to operate it. The sensor version has a second benefit that the always-on version does not. A light that visibly responds to conditions looks maintained. A light burning at midday looks forgotten, and a forgotten house is the whole thing you are trying not to be. Number 12. What you post. The signal that travels furthest because it does not need anybody to walk past your house. An airport photograph, a countdown to a holiday, an out-of-office reply that names dates, a public check-in, each states the empty period exactly, to an audience you cannot see. Post it when you get back. It is the same photograph and it costs you nothing but the wait. Check who can actually see it, too. Accounts drift public over the years, tagged photographs carry locations, and a public list of friends is a list of people who now know your house is empty. None of that requires anybody to be targeting you, it only requires them to scroll. Number 13. The bird feeder. A small one that homeowners rarely think about and that regulars on a street notice immediately. An empty feeder, a dry bird bath, plants dying in a window box, a hanging basket that has clearly not been watered in a fortnight. These are all the same statement, and gardens are looked at. Whoever is clearing your post can tip water in a bath and a basket in the same 30 seconds. It is worth saying that none of this is about the plants. A dead hanging basket does no harm on its own. It is the agreement it announces between everything else on this list. Signals compound, and a house showing 4 of them is telling a much louder story than a house showing 1. Number 14. Windows in winter. A lived-in house in cold weather has condensation on the glass in the morning and a heating system that runs. A house with no condensation anywhere, no vent plume from a boiler flue on a cold morning, and identical curtains all week is a cold house, and a cold house is an empty one. The fix is a heating schedule rather than turning it off. Most systems have a holiday or frost setting that runs the boiler briefly. That is worth doing for the pipes regardless. A burst pipe in an empty house is a far more expensive event than a burglary in most cases, and it is the more likely of the two. The setting that hides the absence is the same setting that prevents the freeze, which makes this the rare item that pays for itself twice. Number 15. The television that never flickers. A lamp on a timer produces steady light. A television produces changing light, and from the street the difference is obvious through a curtain. There are devices sold specifically to fake this, and they work. A cheap alternative is a lamp with a smart bulb set to vary, or simply a lamp in the room where a television would be rather than in a hallway. Hallway lights on their own read as automatic. Living room light reads as somebody sitting in it. The cheapest version of this costs nothing at all. Leave a lamp in the room you actually use on the timer rather than the hall lamp everybody defaults to. Same bulb, same timer, entirely different statement. Number 16. The security sign nobody updates. An alarm company sticker faded to illegibility, or a sign for a firm that stopped trading years ago is worse than no sign. It says two things at once. This house had a system, and nobody has looked after it since. Anybody who recognizes the brand knows the second part. Either keep it current or take it down. A blank window is more ambiguous than an obsolete claim. Ambiguity is the goal throughout, and it is worth naming because it runs against instinct. You are not trying to look defended. You are trying to be unreadable, and a house that gives no clear answer either way is a house that gets passed over for one that does. Number 17. Garden furniture in the rain. Cushions left out through a downpour, a parasol still up in wind, a barbecue uncovered for a week. Nobody who is home leaves those. They are small and they are extremely reliable because dealing with them is the kind of thing people do automatically the moment weather changes. Put them away before you leave. It takes 10 minutes and removes a signal that updates itself with every rainfall. Number 18. The gate. A side gate standing open for days is both a signal and an invitation, and it is the most common one on this list after the post. A gate that swings shut on a rising hinge fixes it permanently for about 20, whether or not you are away. It also means nobody can leave it open behind them as an escape route, which matters more than it sounds. Number 19. The parcel. The modern version of number 1 and the fastest moving. A parcel on a step overnight is a statement with a timestamp on the label. 2 parcels is a certainty. And unlike post, they are visible from the pavement without anybody stepping onto your property. Divert deliveries to a locker, a shop, or a neighbor before you go, and pause any subscription boxes. The pause is the one people forget because it arrives whether or not they ordered it that week. And number 20. The neighbor. Every fix above is the same fix, which is the honest conclusion of the whole list. Post cleared, bin out and back, car moved, path swept, basket watered, cushions in. Somebody who knows your car and your hours, whose window overlooks the gap between your houses, who would notice a van that stayed 20 minutes. There is no product that does all of that, and there is no product that ever will, because the job is not surveillance. It is a house continuing to look occupied, which only a person can produce. The entry cost is one conversation and an offer to do the same thing back. Tell me if a van sits outside my house for 20 minutes and I will take your parcels in. Nobody has ever refused that. That is 20, and it is worth stating what the list actually adds up to. Not one of these is a security measure. There is no lock on it, nothing to install, and nothing that would stop anybody who had already decided. Every one is about the decision itself, made on the pavement on almost no information. That is the part worth understanding. The information is free, it is public, and your house is producing it continuously whether or not anybody is home to notice. Walk past your own house tomorrow morning from the far end of the street and read it the way a stranger would. Most people have never once done that, and it takes about a minute. You will find at least 2 of these. Everybody does.